What about our debt? What about our deficit? The fact that here in fiscal year 2015, the federal government has brought in record amount of revenue and still running a $550 billion deficit. Nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk.
You know what people bring up, Colonel West?
Yeah.
They bring up the fact that it was once over $1 trillion. Now it's just $500 billion.
Well, can you imagine if you did not have a GOP House and Senate, where it would be? And I do remember the first 4 years of Barack Obama up there with anywhere from 1.1 to 1.4 $4 trillion deficit. So, you know, I think that it's not because of him. It's because of the fact that we do have people trying to rein in the spending. The fact that we still have the export ban on all oil and natural gas, which is so important right now. No one is talking about the Iranian deal. I mean, we're talking about this, you know, Muslims. Do you want to be a Muslim as a president? No one is talking about the fact that you have Russian paramilitary forces and fighter jets in Syria. And their foreign minister issued a very interesting warning to us saying that we don't want to have any unintended incidents. And so what does that mean for our men and women that are there operating in the battle zone of Iraq and Syria?
I want you to hear a little Bill O'Reilly, Charles Krauthammer on this issue, and then I'll move on, I promise, to those other issues. Cut 21.
He doesn't believe that a Muslim could carry out the vision of the Founding Fathers. That's his opinion, and he's entitled to it without being threatened and called a bigot.
I'm not threatening him. I'm not calling him a bigot. But if you're asking me to comment my opinion on his opinion, here's what I say. Unless you fancy yourself an Islamic scholar, which I assume that Dr. Carson doesn't, you have to concede that in any religion, Christian, Jewish, Islamic, or whatever, people bring their own interpretation and understanding of that. And again, I say there are a lot of Muslims in America. I don't know whether it would apply universally, but there is nothing intrinsic in the religion that would make a believer, and there are all stripes of believers in the U.S. and around the world, inimical to the Constitution. And if you think that's true, then I think you're making a pronouncement on a religion that you are not an expert on. I'm not even sure you could say that about a Christian or about a Jew. And we do not.
Look,
I'm not saying he's not allowed to say it, but I'm allowed to say that he's got it wrong.
Your reaction to this debate, I mean, what basically, I think Trump nailed it. Now, let you talk, Colonel, when Trump said, this is a long process. It's a grueling process. We'll know everything about you by the time you get there. We hope, anyway. Yeah. So if you have this secret Islamic agenda, it'll be exposed.
Well, this is what I want to express to folks. I want to see a constitutional conservative. That's the most important thing to me. I don't want to see a progressive socialist. I don't want to see a Marxist socialist. I don't want to see anyone that does not act in good conscience with the fundamental principles and values of this country, which are established in our rule of law. The person that we have in the White House right now is doing things as far as our economy, as far as our military, our national security, and foreign policy that is the antithesis of what this country was established and founded upon. So it is not about looking at someone's quote-unquote, respective faith. I want to know, what are you going to do to restore this great republic to, the intent and the purpose of our founding fathers? I don't want to see collectivism. I want to see people focus on the individual and their rights and their freedoms and their sovereignty. And I think that's what we have to come down to understand. And let's make a very interesting contrast. Look at the Islamic countries. Look at these theocracies all across the world. That's my point. Okay. And so if that's how they run their country, I'm just going to say very simply, on a principle and a policy basis, that's not the type of principles that we should have in America.
I know you're very passionate about getting a Republican in the White House, and you will not.
A conservative.
Okay. And you'll not take a stand yet on any candidate.
Yeah.
Here is Scott Walker yesterday, 71 days in, he's out.
Today, I believe that I'm being called to lead by helping to clear the field in this race so that a positive, conservative message can rise to the top of the field. With this in mind, I will suspend my campaign immediately. I encourage other Republican presidential candidates to consider doing the same so that the voters can focus on a limited number of...
Is that his place to tell others to do the same, drop out?
No, I don't think it's his place, but that's kind of a bit of the taking the high road. You know, let's do it for America. Let's do what's best. Let's try to whittle it down so that the American people can make the right choice. But what you're going to start seeing now, Brian, is a lot of guys going to start positioning, okay, if I can't get the top job, what's another job that I can kind of posture myself for? Because I want to be seen as a team player. So I think that's probably the takeaway from what Governor Walker said.
I mean, you got some powerful, talented people in Wisconsin. You got Paul Ryan.
Oh, yes.
You have Reince Priebus, who's running the RNC. And then you got the governor. They're all buddies.
Yes.
And when he said that, I felt like that's Reince Priebus saying, hey, if you're going to quit, can you actually say this on your way out? Because they think that you'll be getting, I imagine, you'll be getting Trump, Fiorina, and of course Ben Carson on the exit ramp if you start narrowing down the field and let Jeb Bush and Scott Rubio and Governor Huckabee get at him.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully this is not like Survivor, where you start to have people, you know, establishing their own little cabals within their respective tribes. The most important tribe we need to be talking about is the United States of America, and we need to be doing what's best for the citizens. And I don't want us to have that internecine food fight that is going on and people trying to move their own chess pieces.
Who are you most impressed with? I'm not saying who you endorse.
Sure.
So far, we're about 3-4 months in. Who's impressed you the most?
Well, without a doubt. I mean, you look at what Carly Fiorina has done coming virtually out of nowhere. And now within the last month, she's gone from 2% to 15%. And, you know, it's so funny. You heard about the memos about Hillary Clinton being more spontaneous and everything. And then when you saw Carly Fiorina last night on Jimmy Fallon when she was told to sing a little ditty about her dog.
She did.
How great spontaneity could that have been, you know, to be able to make that rhyme? But Marco Rubio continues to show himself very astute as far as delivering the message and definitely understanding foreign policy. So I think right now you have seen them have a bump and they continue to do well. I think the most important thing is we need to have individuals in the GOP field that don't go into the landmines, don't go into the ambushes that are laid out there by the liberal media because they don't want to talk about the issue.
We just watched CNN, and I don't even need to put the sound up. Now, Trump came out and said, listen, there's a vetting process. You know, he does make a point. Now, all of a sudden, Trump and Ben Carson are intolerant, don't like Muslims.
Yes.
It's not even an issue. If you have differing views on how to get the debt down, game on. If you have differing views on how to take out ISIS, open season. That's fine. Yep. If you don't like the way the media is portraying your views, go out and clarify. But now, I think this is just absolutely a joke the way it is right now.
But that is what...
It's almost like Mitt Romney's high school brawl that he had in 10th grade.
Yes, but that is taking the bait, and we have to have people that don't take that bait. And you know, we never put the Democrat Party or the Progressive Socialists on the defense.
Exactly.
We are constantly reacting to whatever the media puts out for, you know, that news cycle. And so, you know, for the next 5 or 6 days, this is what we're going to be talking about. Well, you know the story,
and I'm going to play it a little bit later, but I want to get to the Syria thing with you because that's another area of many expertise. But Hillary Clinton in 2008 on tape caught and Mark Halperin bringing it up and John Howman confirming that it was her camp bringing up the president's Muslim roots that may or may not exist. They are the ones who started it. If that was an honest news station, CNN, they'd be playing that story. Where do the rumors about the president's background really take root? It was back in 2008, and we'd see Hillary Clinton when she had a blow dryer and different type of gel talking back then.
But that's not going to happen. But if we were serious about what's going on, we would look and say this refugee issue that is happening in Europe is because of the failed policies and the vacuum that the president left in the Middle East and what he did going in and destabilizing Libya and allowing the radical Islamists to take over.
That is true. That is like not criticizing George Bush for the bad occupying strategy after the invasion. That is like saying that not bringing up the fact that Jay Garner had no support on the transition. That would be irresponsible not to report support that no matter what station you're at. To say the president's not directly responsible for pulling out troops out of Iraq to allow the vacuum in Syria to take root, to allow the the uprising in Syria against Assad to just wallow, allowing this new incarnation of al-Qaeda, ISIS, to come in. That is irresponsible. But listen, I want to talk more about that when we get back, because everyone's weighing in now, because it affects everyone, because the Russians are now on campus in Syria. Lieutenant Colonel / Congressman Alan West, who's currently the CEO of the National Center for Policy Analysis, and that gets you into Texas, doesn't it?
It gets me into Texas, and I'm enjoying being out there in Dallas.
Are you enjoying this page in your life?
Yes, I am. You know, think about the fact, you know, here I am, a 54-year-old guy born and raised in the inner city of Atlanta, Georgia, and you get the opportunity to travel all over the country and talk about the policies that will ensure that we restore the opportunity of society and greatness for this nation.
Right. So I guess that's a yes. You're able to not have the military structure. Then you become a congressman, and I guess now all
I'm
of a
living
sudden,
a dream.
Yeah, you just keep going.
Yeah.
I want to bring you up to what's happening in Syria. It's amazing. As soon as the Iranian deal is done and the P5+1 is sealed, that next day,
Absolutely.
Soleimani, the head of the Al-Quds force, the Revolutionary Guard force in Iran, ends up where?
He is up in Russia, and the thing that we have to understand, first of all, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps is listed as a terrorist organization, so is the Quds Force. General Qasem Soleimani is on an international travel ban. So here we are, you know, the ink is not even dry on the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the Iranian deal, and he's off to Russia. And in Russia, he is sitting there meeting with their defense minister and Vladimir Putin. And now all of a sudden, guess what we see happening? Russian paramilitary forces in Syria, and oh, by the way, they landed and stopped midpoint in Iran before they got to Syria. We know that they're talking about S-300 surface-to-air missile systems. They're talking about other, agreements with weapon support. But the fact that Russia now has a footprint, a military footprint, with troops on the ground, boots on the ground, and also fighter jets.
What's the problem with that?
Well, the big problem is all of a sudden the leadership of the United States of America has been replaced. And so Vladimir Putin in Russia is saying, come join our coalition, and we will fight against ISIS and these Islamic jihadist groups. And guess what? I am quite sure that the President of the United States of America, who does not want to accept any responsibility for the bad decision he made in withdrawing our troops, will allow Russia to do this fight. And in the long-term geopolitical strategy, it will be Bashar al-Assad gets to stay.
Samantha Power, the U.S., the UN, the United States Ambassador to the United Nations, cut 39.
But Russia has changed the dynamic.
Russia has introduced a new dynamic, it appears, but I mean, we will deconflict with them operationally. Our target is ISIL. If they pursue the Assad approach, it's only going to create challenges to our anti-ISIL effort.
Oh, really? Challenges? And whose fault is that? I mean, she's got to back up somebody else's policy, but she's more to the left than President Obama.
You're absolutely right. And the thing is, when she said deconflict,
what the heck does that mean?
This means who owns the battle space? Who owns the airspace? If all of a sudden U.S. drones or aircraft are flying, who is in control of that airspace? But what we are not talking about, instead of talking about Muslims, Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday was in Russia talking with Vladimir Putin. That's an incredible.
Don't worry, he's powerless. He's got those sanctions on him. We really snapped him into shape, didn't we?
Yeah, we did not.
Yeah.